All right, then we'll say good morning. Let's begin. A lot to do today. First of all, our shir this morning, the shiurim this month are sponsored by Ayal and Sarah Steinberg in honor of the yahrzeit of Ayal's mother, Elia Daphna Bas Yosef. We hope that the merit of our Talmud Torah and the Shem will have an aliyah in the family in Nechama. Thank you for the sponsorship. And the shir today is sponsored by Robert and Lisa Lilienfeld in memory of Robert's mother, Madeline Lilienfeld, Migdal Bas Velvel on her yahrzeit, and by Ron Gartenhouse and family in honor of the yahrzeit of his father, Uri Lipa Ben Baruch Zichron Levracha. We hope that in the merit of our Talmud Torah, the Neshamas will have an aliyah and the family's ein nechama. Shkoyach, and thank you for the sponsorship. So let's begin. A beautiful daf ahead of us today. Today's daf is Dalid. I want to thank Yehuda for giving the shir yesterday, and we're going to pick up from the top of Dalid Amud Aleph. Mamish, the first line. Minolan deba'ina zricha lishma. So let's remember again. So now we're going to talk today about lishma. Two different types of lishma. One, what we'll call a type of sacrificial lishma, the obligation to go ahead and offer up a carbon for a particular purpose. In other words, that if I'm offering up a shlamim, I have to have in mind that it's for a shlamim, so on and so forth. Then we're going to discuss lishma lebaylim. The idea that when offering up a carbon, one has to offer it up lishma for the particular owner upon whose behalf it's being offered. So minolan deba'ina zricha lishma. So from where do we know? So the Gemara says, from where do we know that when one is offering a carbon, one must have in mind that the carbon is being offered for the particular type of carbon. That if I'm offering up a shlamim, I have to have in mind when I'm doing the avodah that it's for shlamim. I'm going ahead and offering up an olah. I have to have in mind that it's for the sake of an olah. Look at Rashi. Rashi says, "Minan deba'inan zvicha l'shma lechatchila." From where lechatchila, that when I shech the carbon, it has to be done l'shma. Because the pasuk says, "V'im zevach shlamim karbano." The pasuk says, if it's a zevach shlamim, will be his carbon. Shetei zvicha l'shem shlamim. So I will say, interestingly enough, what the Gemara is darshaning over here is the pasuk says zevach shlamim. That word zevach is really extra. I could have just said im shlamim karbano. Im zevach shlamim, the Gemara is darshaning to mean that the zevach, the offering itself, must be l'shem shlamim. Must ultimately again be for the sake of the particular carbon. So the Gemara said, "V'dilma hainu shmaihu." Well, maybe not. Maybe zevach shlamim is just the way the Torah calls the carbon, or maybe that's just the name of the carbon that the Torah calls it. Instead of just calling it a shlamim, the way the Torah refers to a sacrificial offering of shlamim is a zevach shlamim. Midichsiv hamakriv es dam hashlamim, hazorik es dam hashlamim, v'lo ksiv zevach, v'hocha ksiv zevach. So also here's the difference. If indeed that's just the terminology by which the Torah refers to the shlamim, just calls the shlamim a zevach shlamim. If that's the case, then that phraseology should have been used every single time the Torah refers to the carbon. But that is not the case. Under normal circumstances, the Torah just calls the shlamim a what? A shlamim. So why does the Torah choose to add in the word zevach over here? It must be for a drasha. What's the drasha, Rabbi say? Shmamina shetei zvicha l'shem shlamim. What do you learn from here? You learn from here that the actual slaughter itself must be for the sake of shlamim. So now we've just seen that halacha l'maisa. We've seen the source for the fact that when slaughtering the carbon, one must have in mind, at least l'chatchila, the particular type of carbon they're offering. Now for us, it's already a bit anticlimactic because we already saw from the Mishnah that me'ikar adin, if you don't have in mind for the particular carbon, what's the halacha? Right? The halacha is it works, meaning we saw even better. We saw that even if one has in mind for a dramatically different type of carbon, the carbon is still good. The only exception is that what? It doesn't necessarily count towards the obligation of the owner. So again, we're talking lechatchila though. That's why Rashi adds in that word lechatchila. So the halach is lechatchila, when one shechts a carbon, one has to have in mind for the particular carbon they are shechting. Good. Ashkichan zvicha. So now we've established that for shchita, you should have in mind for the particular type of carbon that you're offering. Shar avodos minalan. How do I know about other avodos? Right? How do I know about other parts? You also remember again, one of the incredibly exciting parts, and kind of giving you coming attractions on this, is that I'm going to go through karbanos step by step. This is part of the reason we're amongst friends, so you could talk openly and honestly. Some of the reasons why we often tune out when it comes to Gemaras on karbanos is for a very simple reason, which is what? We have no idea what we're talking about, right? So when you have no idea, which is generally people try to avoid subjects that they don't. Most people try to avoid subjects they don't know what they're talking about. Some people have to gravitate towards those subjects, but that's a different discussion. So we'll say, so part of the reason why karbanos sometimes are just we steer because I don't know what it is. The incredible part about this Masechta is we're really going to get into the kishkas of the karbanos, right? And we're going to get to see the different processes. So right now, again, we're working our way through what we'll call them the blood avodos or the dam avodos. So now I understand shchita, slurring of the carbon has to be done lechatchila for the sake of the carbon. What about ashkechan zvicha shar avodos minalan? What about the other parts of the service? Then we'll discuss. We're going to go through what are the other parts of the service. How do I know that the other parts of the sacrificial service also shalachatchila be done l'shma? V'chi tema leilef mizvicha. Maybe you'll say we learn it out ultimately again from shchita. Ma lezvicha shekein nifsala shelo l'shem ochlin. So we'll say here's the difference. Here's the difference. The difference is, so maybe I'll say, just like zvicha, just like shchita has to be done l'shma, so to everything else in the carbon also has to be done l'shma. To which the Gemara said, well, here's the difference. Ma lezvicha shekein nifsala shelo l'shem ochlin bepesach. Shchita is a little bit different. Shchita has a unique halacha, and that's what Rabbi was saying. And that halacha is that if you shecht a carbon pesach for the intention of someone who does not have the ability to partake of the carbon, then what's the halacha? The halacha is it invalidates the carbon. Look at Rashi for just a moment. Poseles shelo l'shem ochlim bepesach. It's the last of the wide lines on top of Rashi. Shem shachto l'shem ochlim kagon l'chola u'lezakin she'in yecholun lechol kizayis pasol va'afilo hein bailov. Dichsiv ish lefi achlo achila bekizayis u'shar avodos lo pasli shlo ochlim. So we'll say what the Gemara just points out over here is maybe you can't learn out the other avodos from achila. Why? Because from zvicha, from shchita. Because shchita does have a particularly unique chumrah. What's the chumrah Rabbi saying? By one particular carbon pesach, this is actually very interesting. If you shecht a carbon pesach, to have in mind for someone to partake of the carbon pesach who is not fit to eat a kezayis of the carbon pesach. For example, I'm shechting my carbon pesach on behalf of the chabura, and one of the members of the chabura is an old, infirm person who can't eat a kezayis of carbon pesach. What's the halacha Rabbi saying? That invalidates the carbon. And again, we'll discuss why that is, but it's an incredibly dramatic shita. What the Gemara is pointing out over here is, so shchita itself has a unique chumrah associated with it. Because of that, perhaps it cannot be used to teach me that I need lishma by the other avodos. Ela amarkra, so rather, what does the pasuk say? Hamakriv as dam hashlamim. The pasuk says, he who goes ahead and offers up the blood of the shlamim. Shetehei Kabbalah l'shem shlamim. So we'll say in this case, interestingly enough, so makriv is a reference to Kabbalah. We'll say, what is Kabbalah? Kabbalah is the step after shchita. So the animal, the carbon is shechted. Then what happens? The blood spurts out, right? So the blood is caught in a kli sharis, in a receptacle that belongs to the Beis Hamikdash. That's called Kabbalah. That's called Kabbalah Sadam. So the pasuk says Hamakriv as dam hashlamim. So he will go ahead and receive. He will receive. It literally means he offers up, but this refers to Kabbalah. He will receive the blood of the shlamim. Shetei Kabbalah l'shem shlamim. So what do we see from here? See, it says dafka, that what does he have to do? It's dafka dam hashlamim. So what's that? Dam hashlamim, the Gemara's darshing means what? That when you receive the blood, you should have in mind that what? L'shem shlamim. L'shem shlamim. So the Gemara says, so if that's the case, why not just write the Lishma obligation by Kabbalah, by receiving the blood? And I could have learned that from there that what? Just like Kabbalah has to be Lishma, so too what? So to Shchita has to be Lishma. In other words, we'll say, at some point in time, you have to ask yourself, why the Torah doesn't need to teach me the Lishma concept by all the different parts of the sacrificial service. Teach me by one part, and I could extrapolate from there that I need Lishma by all parts. So teach me that I need the Shema by Kabbalah, and I can learn it out by Shechita. To which the Gemara says, "V'leilef l'Shechita mina mishum de'igal lemifrach," because there's a pircha. Mala Kabbalah shekein psula bizar v'isha. We'll say here's the difference. The difference is that Kabbalah. Remember, we'll see this. We're going to see this in greater depth. Shechita is kshera bizar. Shechita of a carbon could be done by anyone. Shechita of the carbon does not have to be done by a kohen. Can be done by a zar non-kohen as well. Remember again, the halacha is that's only by shechita, right? When it comes to zrika, when it comes to Kabbalah or the other forms, ultimately again, or the other parts of the carbon, those cannot be done by a zar, by a non-kohen, or by isha. So we'll say, so because of that, again, I cannot necessarily go ahead and take Kabbalah and learn out other things from Kabbalah because Kabbalah has chumras over, let's say, shechita. So shechita be Kabbalah. So we'll say, so now here's what we've got. We understand now that shechita has to be done l'shma, Kabbalah has to be done l'shma. Zrika minalam. We'll say, what about the sprinkling of the blood? Right? From where do I know that also has to be done l'shma? So maybe you'll say, okay, not a problem. I can learn out zrika from what Rabbi saying, from shechita and from Kabbalah. So meaning, even if you want to say that shechita is unique because it could be done by anyone, Kabbalah, the receiving of the blood, we already established, can only be done by a kohen. So if Kabbalah has to ultimately be done by a kohen and requires lishma, then what? Then zrika. Also remember again, what's zrika? Zrika is the sprinkling of the blood on the mizbeach. So where do I know that zrika has to be done lishma as well? To which the Gemara says, so learn it out from shechita and from Kabbalah. Malahani she came to unos safon. So we'll say So here we'll say that maybe zrika is a little bit different. Number one, because zrika only is done on the northern side of the Beis Hamikdash, and furthermore, again, it applies ultimately again in chatos hapnimios. Ultimately, again, with chatos offerings that are offered up on the inside of the Beis Hamikdash. Look at Rashi. V'yeshnan b'chatos hapnimios aval zrikas mizbeach hachitzon lespahu. Ultimately, again, I will say there is no sprinkling on what we call the Mizbeach HaChitzon. Again, we'll discuss what all of these particular details mean. The point the Gemara is making over here, I will say, is that what? Is that Zrika has unique chumras over Kabbalah and over Shechita, to which the Gemara says, Ela Amakra, Hazorik Estam Hashlamim, Shete Zrika L'Shem Shlam. So therefore, I will say it's okay. We don't have to learn Zrika from anywhere else because we have a pasuk. What does the pasuk say? Hazorik Estam Hashlamim. So we'll say, what do you see? If you notice, by the way, every drush is pretty much the same. What do you see? What is the Torah doing? By every single step of the sacrificial process, the Torah is going out of its way to restate which word? Good. Shlamim. Right? Shlamim. Right? Every time, all the time, it restates shlamim, 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 shlamim. I said, what's about shlamim? Just tell me one time. Introduce the concept with shlamim, and you don't need to keep on repeating the word over and over and over. The fact that it restates the word by every single step of the sacrificial process. It says shlamim by shechita. It says shlamim by Kabbalah. It says shlamim by zrika. Tells me that what, Rabbi Osai? Tells me that what? Has to be done l'shma. Has to be done l'shma. And again, even though normally I'd be tempted to say, well, don't keep repeating it. Just let me learn out one step from the other. Obviously, we can't because halacha l'maaseh, what the Gemara is pointing out, is that each part of the sacrificial process has its own unique aspect to it. So therefore, again, by Zrika. Good. So again, the Gemara is asking, so okay, so why don't you just write the Lishma obligation by Zrika, and let me learn out everything else from some Zrika. I'll learn out Shechita, Kabbalah from Zrika, to which the Gemara says, Mishum de'igal lemifrach, because one could raise a pircha, Mal Zrika shekin chayev aleh zar misa. Let's say here's the difference. By Zrika, if a non-Kohen goes ahead and does Zrika, he's chayiv misa b'dishmain. I know what you're thinking to yourself, but one second. Kabbalah, we just established before that what? Also has to be done by a Kohen. Look at Rashi for just a moment. Zrika zar chayiv aleh misa. Aval shchita kshera b'zar. So first of all, shchita we know lechatchila is even kosher with the non-Kohen. The Kabbalah v'holacha apapi shebsula b'zar. Ein chayev ala misa kedarmina b'seder yuma. So we'll say, interestingly enough, as much as Kabbalah, receiving of the blood, and holacha, the taking of the blood to the mizbeach, also have to be done with a kohen. If a non-kohen does it, he's not chayev misa. Mashe'en kein zrika, the actual sprinkling on the mizbeach, if a non-kohen does it, there is a chayev misa. So because zrika has this chumrah of the chayev misa, you You can't learn out the din of lishma from zrika to the other forms of avodas. So we'll say, so now look what we've got. We're accomplishing a lot in a relatively short amount of time already. So I've established now shchita, kabbalah, zrika, all require lishma. What about ashkechon kulu? Holacha minala. I will say, what about holacha? Now, halacha, interestingly enough, I will say is what? Kishmo kinu. Halacha is the process after you receive the blood in the kli sharis. It is the process of walking the blood over to the mizbeach to sprinkle it. So halacha is the process between kabbalah and zrika. So what about halacha? So maybe you'll say, okay, you could just learn out halacha from everything else. So as Rabbi say, the logic would dictate that what? If kabbalah has to be lishma, and if zrika has to be lishma, then what? And halacha has to be lishma. Why? Because again, it's the process right in between those two. So we're done. To which the Gemara says, well, not necessarily. I'll tell you why. Malakulu shekain avoda she efshar levatla. So we'll see. Here's the difference. The difference is that kabbalah, shchita, kabbalah, zrika are indispensable parts of the sacrificial service. In other words, you need them as part of the carbonic service, and if you don't have it, ultimately, again, the carbon is invalid. Tomar b'halacha she'efshar levatla. We'll say, if you wanted to, you could technically negate the halacha. We'll say, how can you negate the halacha? By shechting the carbon right next to the mizbech. We'll say, halacha is it serves a utilitarian function. I shech the carbon is there, I need to sprinkle the blood there, I have to walk the blood over from point A to point B. But on a technical level, if you shechted the carbon right next to the mizbech, which I must remember again, so I'll bring it in one of these days. If you can imagine your image of the second Beis Hamikdash, so remember again, you have the mizbech hachitzon, the outer mizbech, right next to the outer mizbech, also with the rings. Those rings are the rings that remember from our Yuma days. That lifted up, you pushed the animal on its side. The ring came down, clamped down on the head of the animal, and allowed for shechita to take place. Those rings are not far from the mizbech, so technically speaking, you could do the shechita right next to the mizbech and obviate the need for halacha altogether. So because of that, again, because halacha is not quote unquote a necessity, therefore by definition it can't go ahead and be learned out from the other avodas. Where do you learn out that halacha has to be lishma as well? Elo amrkra vehikri v'esakala mizbecha. Rather, the pasuk says, "You shall offer up everything on the mizbech." Va'amar mar zu halachas evarim lekevesh. And Mar said that this refers mostly to what? To the walking of the limbs over to the ramp of the mizbeach. V'tanya v'krivu zu kabbalah sadam. So before we go on, ultimately again the pasuk goes ahead and equates the process of halacha to the other processes as well, and tells you that the process of halacha also has to go ahead and be done lishma. So the Gemara says, "V'tanya v'krivo," he will offer it up zu kabbalah sadam. But this refers ultimately again to receiving the blood. V'apik rachmana b'lashon halacha. And the Torah, yet interestingly enough, even though it's called kabbalah sadam, so the Torah uses the lashon ultimately again of halacha, of transporting the blood. Lememra the halacha lo tafka michlal kabbalah. To teach you that halacha should not be removed from the general klal of kabbalah, and to teach you that what? Just as kabbalah, just as the receiving of the blood has to be done lishma, so too again halacha, the process of transporting the blood from point A to point B also must be done lishma. Good. So I'll say, so now just understand what we've just done. So halacha l'maisa, what the Gemara has just proven is that at least l'chatchila, shchita, kabbalah, halacha, zrika, all have to be done lishma. Now I will say the lishma we're talking about over here is what? The shem carbon. For that one, when one does these four processes, one must have in mind the particular type of carbon that is being offered up. Good. Ashkichan shinui kodesh. Shinui bailamina. So I'll say now what we've established is what we call shinui kodesh. We've established now that when offering up a carbon and engaging in the various carbonic processes, that one has to have in mind for the particular type of carbon. Shinui bailam minalan. How do I know about that when offering up a carbon has to be offered up specifically for the intent of the particular owner, right? So meaning if it's Ruvain's carbon, it really should be offered up l'chatchila with having Ruvain in mind. So we've established now that everything has to be done l'shem the particular type of carbon. How do I know now l'chatchila? It also has to be done ultimately again for the sake of the particular owner. If you look at Rashi says shinui bailaminala shetzach l'shachto Almanashi is kaprubo bailov. Veloshi is kaprubo achar. So Rashi says over here, we'll say it's not just having the particular owner in mind, but rather it's having in mind that the particular owner should achieve atonement through this particular carbon, and not that someone else should achieve atonement. So where do I know that from? We'll say, Amar Pinchas Beid Ravami Amar Kra Ubasar Zevach Todas Shlamav. So the pasuk says, literally again, the meat Zevach Todas Shlamav of the Zevach is a carbon. Todas Shlamav, the Toda, that's the Shlamim. Shete Zvicha L'Shem Toda. So we'll say, interestingly enough, the Gemara dashes this pasuk. Remember again, that word Zevach, which we saw beforehand also, is really extra. So the Gemara dashes over here, Basar Zevach Toda Shlamav means what? Zevach doesn't just mean a carbon, rather Zevach means Shchita. Shete Zvicha L'Shem Toda. When offering up the carbon should be offered up for the purpose, express purpose of a Toda. Now we'll say, now what is that teaching me? Seemingly that's teaching me L'Shem carbon, right? Seemingly that's teaching me that when offering up a carbon, one has to offer it up specifically for the particular type of carbon. We'll say, but again, remember, we've already learned that. I already have a limud for that. We just established that before. So the Gemara says it's okay. And Eino Inyan L'Shinoi Kodesh, Denafkala Mehasam. If I don't need this phrase to teach me that a carbon should be offered ideally for the particular type of carbon in question, because we already learned that earlier from a different pasuk, Tineu Inyan L'Shinoi Bailim. Use the pasuk ultimately what? To teach me the halacha that the carbon must be offered up for the express purpose of achieving atonement for the particular owner. To which the Gemara says, but does this pasuk come to teach us about shinoi bailim? The Gemara calls it shinoi bailim, but what the phrase actually shinoi bailim means that I have to have in mind. I shouldn't have in mind for a different owner. I should have in mind to be mechaper for the particular owner of that carbon. So the Gemara said, but one second, that pasuk comes to teach us something else. So I need that pasuk to teach the following halacha. What's the halacha about saying? Ubasar zevach todas shlamav. So the phrase says, Basar zevach todas shlamav. Abachan omer shon Rabbi Eliezer ba lilamit. What does it come to teach us? Toda sheshachta l'shem shlamim kshera. It will say to offer up a toad offering. Remember again, the toad offering is the very unique Thanksgiving carbon. If a person ultimately, again, is saved from some type of life-threatening situation or inherently dangerous situation, person brings the carbon toda. So this is what we learn from that pasuk. It teaches us that if a person goes ahead and shechted the carbon, the toda, l'shem shlamim, or let's say when shechting it, I didn't have in mind for a toda, had in mind for a shlamim, that the carbon is still kosher. Shlamim sheshachton l'shem toda psula. But if we'll say, if when one was shechting it, one was shechting a shlamim, and they had in mind that the shlamim should be a toda, then ultimately, again, the carbon is puzzle. To which the Gemara says, well, ma hefresh ben zeh lezeh. We'll say, why is it that if I go ahead and I shech the toda l'shem shlamim, that the carbon is kosher, but if I, the toda l'shem shlamim, right? If I go ahead and if I shech the toda l'shem shlamim, it's kosher. If I shech the shlam l'shem toda, it's puzzle. We'll say, why is that? Very simple. Toda, kriya shlamim. Because we'll say, ultimately, again, the toda itself is referred to as a shlamim. We'll say, where do we see that the toda is referred to as a shlamim? That's the pasuk. Ubasar zevach todas shlamav. The toda is referred to as shlamim. Therefore, again, if I shech the toda with the intention, with the kavanah for a shlamim, it works. Then shlamim kriya toda. But a carbon shlamim, we'll say, is not called a toda. Therefore, if you shech the shlamim for the sake of a toda, it doesn't work. So we'll say, so the point over here is, the Gemara is using this pasuk of ubasar zevach todas shlamav to teach me that a carbon has to be offered up for the sake of for the atonement of the particular owner. The Gemara says, but one second, we use that pasuk to teach us something else, which is what? That a toda offered for the sake of a shlamim works, but a shlamim offered for the sake of a toda doesn't work. So the pasuk is not free for the drasha you want to use it for. To which the Gemara says, no. Ana mizevach kamrinam. The word we're actually utilizing for this drasha is the word zevach. That's the word we're utilizing for the drasha. So we'll say the other drasha of shlamim toda is utilizing the phrase of todas shlamav, the linkage between toda and shlamim. We're actually going ahead and focusing on the word zevach, that the carbon has to be his carbon. The carbon should be offered up for the particular owner. To which the Gemara says, Imkain, nichtov kra, ubasar todas shlamav zevach. If that's the case, ultimately, again, the pasuk should have phrased it differently. Let it say ubasar todas shlamav zevach. My Zevach, why is Zevach placed there in the middle? Shma minat tarti. I'll say ultimately again, it teaches us two things. Number one, ultimately again, we'll say actually Rashi points out over there's another halacha that's being taught that we're going to come back to on Amud Beis a bit more, which is that from Zevach we also learn that the carbon toda has a particular window of consumption. That the halacha is that it can only be eaten for a certain amount of time. What we will see is we actually learn out two halachas from this word Zevach. Halacha number one is that there is a particular window of consumption. But halacha number two, which is the one that's more important for us right now, is that the carbon has to be offered up l'shem bailim, for the sake of the particular owner. So we'll say, so now what we've just established is Hashem, halacha l'maisa, point number one, shchita has to be done l'shem bailim. Shchita has to be done ultimately again for the sake of the particular owner. Ashkichan zvicha sharvalos min alon. We've established now that shchita has to be done for the sake of the particular owner. What about the other parts of the carbonic service? So maybe you'll say, okay, learn it out from shchita. Just like shchita has to be done l'shem bailim, so to the other forms of avodah also have to be done l'shem bailim. To which the Gemara says no. I'll tell you why the Gemara says mal shchita, mal zvicha shekein posa shlo l'shem ochlim bepesach. So also remember again, shchita has its own unique chumrah. We'll say, what's the unique chumrah of shchita? The unique chumrah of shchita is by carbon pesach. We'll say, what's the halacha by carbon pesach? By carbon pesach, if you end up shechting the carbon for the sake of someone who does not have the ability to eat up the carbon, then I will say, what does that do? It invalidates the shechita in its entirety, which is an incredible halacha. Again, not our topic now, but what it does for us, it tells us that shechita has a unique, stringent peculiarity. So because of that, it cannot be used as the source for other halachas. So even though we've established that halacha l'maisa the shchita should be done for the sake of the particular owner, I can't learn out the other parts of the service from shchita. So where do I learn it out from? To which the Gemara says, Ne'emra zvicha b'shinoi kodesh, v'ne'emra zvicha b'shinoi bailim. So also the Gemara does something very interesting. It says the word zvicha also b'shinoi kodesh, which means it says the word zvicha. When the Torah teaches me that the carbon should be slaughtered for the sake of the particular carbon, and it says over here, this says the word zvicha. When the Torah teaches me the halacha that the carbon should be offered up on behalf of the particular owner, well, so just like in Shinoi Kodesh, just like beforehand, we've established that just like shchita has to be done for the sake of the particular carbon, so to the other avodos have to be done for the sake of the particular carbon. But I so too over here as well. So we'll say again, what the Gemara is essentially doing is comparing the two forms of lishma. If we've already established that halacha l'maisa, when it comes to lishma of the type of carbon, we've already established that shchita, kabbalah, holacha, zrika, all should be done for the sake of the particular carbon. Then what I will say, once I establish that shchita should be done for the sake of the particular owner, logic dictates that what? That the other avodos as well, Kabbalah, Holacha, Zrika, should be done for the sake of the owner as well. To which the Gemara says, well, Ikala Mifrach, one could raise a question on this comparison, Malishinoi Kodesh, Shekem Psula Begufa. Well, so the Gemara is actually going to raise a couple of questions. Okay, raise a couple of questions with this comparison. So what the Gemara just tried to do is just try to compare what we call the shma of the carbon to the shma of the bailim, and to say just like you need the shma of the carbon, you should do it for the particular sake of the carbon in all of the four types of avodah: shchita, kabbalah, holacha, zrika. So too again, when it comes to the shem bailim, for the sake of the particular owner, once you've established that the shchita has to be done for the sake of the particular owner, then what? All of the other avodah should be done for the sake of the particular owner as well. To which the Gemara says, just understand that comparison between the shema of, we'll call it shema of the carbon, and the shema of the bailim has a couple of problems with it. What's the problem? Number one, so we'll say, first of all, shinoi kodesh, we'll say, which means what? The shema of the carbon, not having in mind for the sake of the particular carbon in question, I will say, is what we call a psula begufa. If I'm offering up a shlamim, and instead I have in mind for an olav, so we'll say that's a psul in the inherent character of the carbon. Next, V'yesh, as opposed to, let's say, shinui bailim, which may not be. V'yeshno ba'arba avodos. Furthermore, again, we established that shinui kodesh applies to all the 4 different types of avodah, i.e., shchita, kabbalah, holacha, zrika. V'yeshno la'achar misa. Now, this is actually very interesting. It applies ultimately after the death of the owner as well. Now, if you look at Rashi, second to last line, v'yeshno la'achar misa, hamafrish karbana umeis. If somebody sets aside a carbon and he dies, the owner dies, before he has the opportunity to bring it, v'hayoresh makrivo, and now the inheritor of the deceased individual is going to bring the carbon. Shayach bo shinui kodesh. So we'll say the inheritor has the ability ultimately to go ahead and potentially erroneously change the kavana for which the carbon is offered. He could have in mind to have it was supposed to be a shlamim. He could have in mind to make it into an ola. Aval shinui bailim shari mesu bailim. But again, there is no possibility of shinui bailim after the death of the owner. Next, the yeshno b'tzibor kibiyachid. And furthermore, again, I will say, so shinui carbon can happen with a communal offering, whereas shinui bailim cannot. Why could shinui bailim not happen with a communal offering of us? Because as you point out, everybody owns that particular carbon. So what the Gemara is just doing is you're trying to compare shinui carbon or shinui bailim to shinui carbon, and say the same way that all of the 4 types of service, sacrificial service, require the shema by the carbon, so too they require the shema by the owners. All the Gemara is just saying is the comparison is fraught with complications. Amud Bezer will say, v'afagav the tarti lav dafka, and even though again 2 out of these 4 objections are not really valid, tarti miha dafka, ultimately again 2 of them are valid. So we'll discuss which ones are valid, which ones aren't valid. Maishna shinui bailim. So we'll say, let's analyze this. One of the things the Gemara said was that shinui carbon, if a person goes ahead and, let's say, is offering up a shlamim, but he has in mind that it should be an ola. So we'll say, the Gemara says, that's a psul begufa. The problem is, that's a problem with the inherent character of the carbon, suggesting that shinui bailim, that having in mind the wrong owners for the carbon, is not an inherent flaw in the carbon. To which the Gemara says, why is it that if you have a change of kavanah for the owner, it's not considered to be an inherent character flaw in the carbon? Because all it is a thought. Shinui kodesh nami machshava ba'alma. I don't understand. Well, I say everything we're dealing with over here is what? Is all thoughts, right? All of this has to do with kavanas. Ella kevan da'achshava psula, hachanami kevan da'achshava psula. I don't understand if you're going to tell me that an erroneous thought or a mistaken thought has the ability to invalidate the carbon by shinui kodesh, by attributing to it to the wrong designation. So let's say the wrong thought about the wrong owners should also go ahead and invalidate. In other words, it's the same flaw, which is a flaw in kavanah. One is just a kavanah for the type of carbon. One is a kavanah for the owner. And I will say, according to Rabbi Pinchas bar Mari, so again, we'll discuss this shita, who says, Yesh shinoi bailim achar misa, which means what? That even after, let's say Reuven set aside a shlamim. Reuven dies. Oh, let's keep it simpler. Yaakov set aside a shlamim. Yaakov dies. He has a son by the name of Reuven. Reuven inherits his father, and along with the estate that he inherits what? A carbon. Right? So we'll say now what's going to happen? Reuven goes and offers up the carbon. So we just said before, there's no shinoi bailim achar misa. There's no such thing as changing the kavanas for the owner after the death of the owner because the owner is dead. Rabbi Pinchas ben Mari says, no, you can have shinoi bailim even after the death of the owner. We'll discuss how that is. So the Gemara says, Rabbi Pinchas ben Mari, Rabbi Mari, the Amar yeshinoi bailim achar misa, tarti miya ika lemifrach. So we'll say, even if you take these two things off the table, even if you take yeshinoi la'achar misa off the table, and you take about ultimately again that both are psula machshava off the table, there are still 2 other objections to this comparison. So let's keep our eye on the ball. Remember, what are we trying to do over here? That's not like an existential question. I mean, like what are they trying to do over here? Which here's what we've established. We've established that halacha l'maisa, all 4 parts of the Qur'anic process of shchita, kabbalah, halacha, zrika, all the chatchila have to be done. The chatchila, the shame for the particular sake of the carbon being offered. Okay, now that's part 1. Part 2. Now we transition to what we call the shame bailim. That when offering up a carbon, one should have in mind the actual owner upon whose behalf it is being offered. We established that concept applies by shchita. We're trying not to apply it to what? To the other 3, to Kabbalah, to halacha, to zrika. The Gemara says, I have a simple way to do this. Let's just compare the lishma of by Bailim to lishma of carbon. Just like carbon applies to all, lishma of carbon applies to all 4 steps, so the lishma of Bailim applies to all 4 steps as well. All the Gemara just said is that comparison is not galat, right? That comparison is fraught with certain complications. The Gemara raised 4 complications, and now the Gemara says even if you take 2 off the table because not everybody agrees with them, there are still 2 objections ultimately against that comparison. I will say, and the objections themselves have to do with the fact that they're really not necessarily comparable. They still are 2 shinu, meaning the shema of Bailim and the shema of carbon are two separate entities. To which the Gemara says, Ela Amar Avashi Amakra. So we'll say the Gemara says, all right, fine. So now if we can't learn out the shema of Bailim from the shema of the carbon, let's try to learn out from a pasuk. So what does the pasuk say? So we'll say the pasuk says that the carbon will be accepted to him or for him, lechaper alav, to atone for him. What do we learn from there? Alav v'lo al chavero. We'll say it teaches me that what? That the kapara should be effective for who? For the owner and not for his friend. So I'll say, so that seems to be pretty clear. That's what? That Allah Chalamaisa, a carbon lechatchila requires the shema of the bailim. Lechatchila has to be offered up for the sake of the particular owner. So listen 1 second. But is that what that pasuk comes to teach us? That pasuk comes to teach us another halacha. To which the Gemara says, I need that for another halacha. What's the other halacha? Because what's we learned in the right, so the pasuk says, right? It should be accepted for him to atone for him. Rabbi Shimon Omer es sha'alav chayev ba'achriyuso ve'es she'inu alav inu chayev ba'achriyuso. But there's another fascinating halacha which is learned out from Rabbi Shimon says es sha'alav, that which is upon you, you have an achrayus for. That which is not upon you, you don't have an achrayus for. Suppose say if you look at Rashi says es sha'alav ke go neder da'amar hare alai ola. Suppose it's actually very interesting. If a person says, Hare alai ola, I hereby take an obligation to bring, I make a neder, I make a vow. Well, so when you say Hare alai, so the obligation is upon the individual, which means what? Let's say I say Hare alai carbon, and I go ahead and I separate out a sheep. And then Nebach, what happens? The sheep dies. We'll say, what's the halacha? The halacha is, I still have to bring the carbon. Why? Because I said Hare alai, the obligation is on me. As opposed to what? If I say Hare zu carbon, that animal is a carbon, and Nebach, the animal expires. And we'll say, what's the halacha? The halacha is I'm done. So the Gemara says, you can't use this pasuk to teach me that a carbon has to be offered up l'shem bailim. This pasuk teaches me a different halacha, we'll say, which is what? V'nir tzelo lechaper alav. That if you took the obligation upon yourself, then you have an achrayus. Even if the animal you set aside dies, you still have to satisfy the obligation with another animal. Masha'in kain, if you didn't take the achrayus upon yourself, but rather you place the achrayus where? Upon the animal. If the animal dies, then you no longer have an obligation. So if you framed the obligation upon yourself, you said Hare alai, then even if the animal you designated dies, you still have to bring another animal. Versus ve'eshe'in olav. So ve'eshe'in olav means if a person says Hare zu ola, right? This animal should be an ola. Then what happens? If you designate the animal dies, then what? You are freed from further obligation. What's the reason for this? Because also when you say alai, it's as if what? You are carrying the obligation upon your shoulders. To which the Gemara says, Ravashi, Ravashi is learning it out. You see, this drasha of Rabbi Yitzchak bar Abdimi, or this drasha of Rabbi Shimon, is learned out from the word alav. Ultimately, again, Rav Ashi is learning it out from the first phrase of v'nirtza lo. So again, really 2 different drashas in the same pasuk. So the alav lechaper alav teaches me that if I took the obligation upon myself, then what? Even if the animal I designated died, I have to bring a replacement carbon. Whereas Rav Ashi is learning out from the first part of the pasuk of v'nirtza lo, and v'nirtza lo means what? That the carbon has to be offered for the sake of the particular owner. Good. Ashkechan zricha uzrika. So now we've established is what? That the slaughtering, the shchita, and the zrika, the sprinkling of the blood, both have to be done lechatchila for the sake of the particular owner. Kabbalah minalan. How do I know that the receiving of the blood has to be done l'shma? Uzrika, maybe I'll say that I'll learn it out. I'll learn out Kabbalah, ultimately again from Zvicha and Zrika. But say here's the difference. If a person does Zvicha or Zrika outside of the Beis HaMikdash, one is chayiv for that. If one does Kabbalah outside of the Beis HaMikdash, technically speaking, one is not chayiv for that. Asya me'el Nazir. So rather says the Gemara, we can learn it out from the ram offering of the Nazir. What does it say? So the pasuk over here, the Gemara quotes, "Ve'es ha'ayil ya'aseh zevach shlamim." So we'll say the ayil will be done as a zevach shlamim shetehei asiyasa l'shem shlamim. We'll say, what do you see from here? Torah goes out of its way to say that the ayil of the Nazir has to be done for the sake of a shlamim. Now I will say, so what is that seemingly teaching me? That's teaching me that the carbon has to be done the shema for the sake of the particular carbon. I will say, I don't need the Torah to teach me that. Why? Because we've learned that already from a different pasuk. So the Gemara says, if I don't need this pasuk to teach that the carbon has to be offered up l'shma, because you already learned this out from an earlier source, ultimately use it for what? Use it to teach me that the carbon has to be offered up for the sake of the particular owner. So let's listen to this. So Rabbi Shmuel says as follows. He breaks out the pasuk like this. Ya'aseh klal, or sorry, the word ya'aseh is a klal, a general statement. Zevach prat, the word zevach we'll say is a specific term. Klalu prat, therefore again the pasuk is a klalu prat. Ein bechlal al masha beprat. And we'll say in general we say when a klalu prat. Ein bechlal al masha beprat, that the prat comes to define the klal. So the Gemara says, Ein bechlal al masha beprat. Zvicha in midyachrina lo. We'll say all the clear out from that is what? Is that shchita has to be done for the sake of the owner. But I can't necessarily extrapolate from that anything else. To which the Gemara says, "Iksiv ya'aseh shlamim zevach kidika amrit." If the pasuk would have written it ya'aseh shlamim zevach, then I would agree with what you said. Hasha d'chsev ya'aseh zevach shlamim. I will say now the word zevach is inserted there in the middle. Havele klal she'eno male. Ultimately, I will say this is what we call. It's actually fascinating. This is what's called an incomplete klal. What's what is incomplete? See, what the Gemara is pointing out over here is the word zevach is extraneous and interrupts the general statement of shlamim. So this is what we call a klal she'eno male. B'chol klal she'eno male, any time the klal is not complete, i.e., it's interrupted, so ein danin oso b'klalu prat. Ultimately, again, you cannot use it to frame a klalu prat principle. Ravina Amar, no. The olam danin, nope, not true. You can make the klalu prat. But la Hashem chazar v'kala. I will say that word La Hashem ultimately again adds in an additional klal. And therefore what? Amrli Rav Acham Difti Ravina V'halo Dami Klala Kamla Klala Basra. For 1 second, I will say if that's the case, that it's a klalu pratu klal. Generally, again, we say that the two bookend klals have to mirror each other in some degree. In this case, the second klal does not mirror the first. To which the Gemara says Lo Dami Klala Kama Klala Basra Klala Kama Mar Ba'asios V'sulo. The first klal ultimately again comes to include other forms of sacrificial service. Kalabasra, kal laHashem, va'afilu shvichas shirayim v'aktara, same word. The second klal seems to say that what? Every single part of the Quranic service has to be done for the sake of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, even the spilling out of the leftover blood and the burning of the leftover limbs. Hatan Rabbi Shmuel b'klali uprati darshi ki agavna. So what we learn? So Hatan Rabbi Shmuel. In the Yeshiva Rabbi Shmuel, they said that in fact they do darshan a klalu prat even in this way. To which the Gemara says, if that's the case, the pasuk becomes a klalu pratu klal iya todein ela ke'ena prat. So also in the case of klalu pratu klal, so ultimately again the klal is modified by the prat. Ma prat mufurash avoda uba inanishma. Just like I will say, the prat in the pasuk is a form of sacrificial service and must be done for the sake of the owners. Afkol avoda uba inanishma. So what do we learn from there? Every single part of the sacrificial service also has to be done for the sake of the particular owner. But 1 second, I can say that the prat will say first specifically to a form of avoda for which you are chayiv if you do it outside of the Beis HaMikdash. Then I will say that would come to include what? Any type of avoda for which one will be chayiv if they did it outside of the Beis HaMikdash. Shchita uzrika in. If that's the case, then shchita and zrika also, which again cannot be done outside of the Beis HaMikdash. That's what requires the Shema. Kabbalah v'halacha lo, but Kabbalah and halacha maybe not. Inami, the other possibility is ma'aprat mefurash davar haton safon. The yeshna bechatos sapnimios. Because it just as the practice referring to something that is done on the northern side of the Beis Hamikdash. And what is shaykh to what we call the inner chatas offerings? Then ultimately, again, maybe we'll say the principle of the Shema only applies to things that are done on the northern side of the Beis Hamikdash, and furthermore, again, are shaykh to the inner chatos. Shchita ve'Kabbalah in Zrika. If that's the case, again, it's only going to apply to Shchita and Kabbalah and not Zrika. Ika l'meimar hachi v'ika l'meimar hachi. Because ultimately, again, the klal u'prat klal could be understood in both ways. Therefore, again, shkulin hein v'yavo shneim. The limud and I say are both equally valid, and therefore, again, are both equally correct. Lishnachrina chada v'chada teiku v'milsa. Also, the other passage, the other lashon over here is that chada v'chada teiku. Both halachas stand and ultimately again endure. Ibai sema, zrika midrav ashi nafka. What's the other possibility is that perhaps the obligation of zrika l'shma is ultimately learned out by Rav Ashi. So we'll say, bottom line is that halacha l'maisa, the Gemara just learned that from both of these klalu prat, that drashas, that halacha l'maisa, all parts of the carbonic service require ultimately again of the shema of the Bala. And I understand, of course, we're talking in the realm of lachatchila. This is on lachatchila. Bidi Evid, if one didn't have the shema for the Bala, we already saw from the first mission on the Masechta that halacha l'maisa again the carbon is still kosher. Ashkichan, let's just do two more lines. Ashkichan el nazir, I el nazir. Shashlam. So I'll say, I now know that what? That there needs to be a lishma of the bailim, right? It has to be done for the sake of a particular owner by the aisle, by the ram of the nazir, because that's the pasuk we're learning from. Shar shlamim, how do you know about other karbanos, other shlamim? V'chitema nelef me'el nazir, male el nazir shekin yeshiman dam machir. So we'll say, so maybe you'll say, learn out other shlamim from el nazir. Here's the problem. We'll say, el nazir ultimately again, there's a chatos and an ola that comes along with that aisle. So maybe again, that's dafka the case where you need the shema. Imke nichtov shlamei. My shlamim, l'rabos kol shlamim. We'll say ultimately again, why does the Torah use the word shlamim? To teach me that this halacha of the shema applies to all shlamim. Ashkechan shlamim, shar kachim minol. So we'll say, now I know that what? All shlamim offerings require a lishma by the bailim. All shlamim offerings must be offered up for the sake of their particular owners. What about other karbanos? So maybe you'll say learn out from shlamim. So we'll say again by shlamim. Shlamim has unique halachas. It requires smicha, leaning on the animal, nisachim, libations, tenufas chazei b'shok, a waving of the chest and the thigh. Elo amerkra zos toras, zos hatorah the olah lemincha lechatas ula ashim v'lamidlum ula zevach hashlamim. Hikisav hakasav l'shlamim. Mashlamim bein shinui kodesh bein shinui bailim ba'in l'shma. We'll say just as shlamim require a l'shma, both for this particular type of carbon as well as for the particular owners. Av kol bein shinui kodesh bein shinui bailim ba'inan l'shma. So we'll say salach l'maisa. The sugya ends off by saying that essentially we learn out from shlamim, just like shlamim ultimately we've established requires a l'shma, both in terms of the type of carbon as well as by the owner. So too, again, all other carbonos require a lishma by the type of carbon and by the owners as well. So we'll say, so bottom line, we'll stop over here for today. But halacha l'maisa, we have successfully proven. We'll say in the course of 50 minutes. What a journey in 50 minutes, right? 49 minutes, well, not 50 minutes. So we'll say, so again, what an incredible, incredible thing. We've proven that, again, l'chatchila, one requires lishma for the particular type of carbon by every form of what we call every part of the blood service, the matnas damim, by shchita, by kabbalah, by holacha, by zrika. You require lechatchila that you have to have in mind for the particular sake of the carbon, and also that one should have in mind ultimately again for the particular owner as well. One has to have in mind the lishma by the carbon, lishma by the bailim, by each of the 4 steps of the sacrificial service. So it's a mazel tov to Dr. Lussman on the occasion of the marriage of his granddaughter last night, and that he's at shir the next morning. I don't want to give musr to anyone, but whatever your excuse is, it's not going to be better than it. Welcome, Baruch Hashem, to Jeremy. You're joining us from Eretz Yisrael. Baruch haba, mazel tov, mazel tov.